Alright guys, Rob Russell here, and I'm in a different room today. This is actually our study room at my house. My game room is full today, full of people who've stolen it from me, so thank you to my fiance. But no, I'm here today to do quite a special review. I haven't done a review since SummerSlam. And last night, of course, it was Aew Full Gear 2021. And it's quite a special show for me. I've never strictly gone out and purchased an AEW show before. I've never watched an AEW show live. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever been quite as excited for a Full Gear show or an AEW pay-per-view in general as I have been for this one. So when I saw this one advertised on the PlayStation Store last night, I thought, you know what, why not go out and do it and pay the money and watch the show. And from 1 o'clock till about 5 o'clock last night, I was absolutely enamoured and pleased and excited and thrilled by AEW Full Gear 2021. Obviously, I'm going to do a review of AEW Full Gear 2021. I want to prefix the review first by just saying I'm not going to bring WWE up a lot in this review, or I'm going to try not to, because I want this pay-per-view and AEW in general to stand on their own merit. I think deliberate comparisons between the two can sometimes lead to fanboyism, or people being called fanboys, or people just trying to besmirch WWE for not having as good of a product, or whatever like that. I'm not trying to do that. I have done that in previous videos. You know, I remember my video on Hell in a Cell all those 2 years ago, when AEW first had their first episode of Dynamite. But I don't want to bring WWE as much up in this video as I can. I just want to talk about Full Gear 2021 because this show was wonderful. The show kicked off with the buy-in, where we had Dante Martin come out, and he was talking with Tony Schiavone, and he was essentially saying whether or not he would decide to join Team Taz, or whether he'd stick with Lio Rush or the Sydal brothers, or whatever. And then the Acclaimed came out, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. These guys are great. Max Caster is a great rapper, actually. He's very original. Very much like Cena was back in the day. Very much like Cena was. He's very, very original with his material. The best jab in it was about Lio Rush going into his 15th retirement, which was fantastic. Lio Rush was not on the show tonight because his grandmother passed away, so I do just want to send best wishes to Lio Rush and his family. But no, Bowens and Caster came out. They essentially said, why not join the Acclaimed? We could be the biggest stable, biggest team in wrestling. They wanted their answer then and there. Dante Martin punched out Bowens and ended a plancha over the top rope to both men. That was cool. It meant that Dante Martin got to do something in his hometown. And then we had the only match on the buy-in show, which was Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose against Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. This match was decent, nothing too memorable though. In the end, the biggest talking point of the match was that Serena Deeb was at ringside and she distracted Hikaru Shida, who was then hit with a kendo stick by Vicky Guerrero, which didn't lead to the finish, oddly. I thought the heels would win off that, they didn't. Eventually, Hikaru Shida just rolled up Nyla Rose with like a jackknife bridge and won. So Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida won. They take a bit of momentum into their TBS quarterfinals matches on Dynamite this week. Hikaru Shida is against Nyla Rose, and Thunder Rosa is taking on Jamie Hayter. So this match was decent. Probably give it 2 3/4 stars. The fact that the kendo stick didn't lead to the finish is a little bit odd, but you know, this was decent enough. But nothing in comparison to what we got on the main show, which kicked off in spectacular fashion with MJF versus Darby Allin. The build for this match has been excellent, as it has been for most matches on this card. MJF has been such a smarmy, psychological prick, and Darby Allin has played his part by just not selling it, and it's been wonderful television, absolutely wonderful television. And this matchup was fantastic. It went against the general conventions of what a Darby Allin match can and maybe should be, because it focused on his chain wrestling. MJF promised before this matchup that he would beat Darby Allin with a side headlock, and so at the beginning he went for side headlock takeovers, which Darby Allin kept avoiding, and they did some fantastic chain wrestling at the beginning, going for covers and backslides, and they had a spot where they did the small packages around the ring, the roly-poly around the ring, small package spot, which was great. The crowd loved it. The crowd was super into both men. Darby Allin did a torpedo suicide dive to MJF on the outside. MJF eventually hurt his knee on a backbreaker, and it hurt it again on a powerbomb into a backbreaker. He went for a tombstone off the middle rope, which Darby Allin countered into a stunner off the top rope. Finally, MJF did get a tombstone, and it was on the apron, which absolutely killed poor Darby Allin. And then, even before that, Darby Allin killed himself with a coffin drop in the apron, which is always scary watching it. But towards the finish, MJF couldn't beat Darby Allin, so he went out of the ring. He picked up his skateboard, he brought it in the ring, he rolled it to Darby Allin, and Darby Allin was considering hitting MJF with it. In the end, he decided not to. He passed it to the referee. The referee took it out the ring. While the referee is distracted, MJF pulls out his Dynamite Diamond ring. He clocks Darby Allin with it. He gives him a headlock takeover, and he pins him. 1, 2, 3. This was maybe the best finish on the show. This was an outstanding heel heat magnet finish. Darby Allin perhaps could be seen as quite a silly babyface, but at the same time, he's an honourable babyface who got beat by a cheater. So I'm not too bothered about the way he was presented here. He was an honourable babyface. And I think that this means the feud will continue, which is fantastic. I want to see these men have more matches, because this was outstanding. A fantastic way to open the show. A great finish. MJF walking up the ramp holding his knee, being guided by a official at ringside was fantastic too. 4.5 stars. This was an outstanding opener. Maybe the best opening match in AEW history. Although obviously Paige and Omega's match at Full Gear last year was fantastic. But yeah, this was an excellent psychological matchup. Fantastic from Darby and MJF. Second match on the show was the AEW World Tag Team Championship matchup. The Lucha Brothers, Penta, El Zero Miedo, and Phoenix against Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler of FTR, who of course the AAA Tag Team Champions. Obviously this match wasn't as high profile as their match at All Out, which the cage match against the Young Bucks, where they won the tag titles, which was one of the best matches of the year. Like, really one of the best matches of the year. Outstanding. Probably the best cage match I've ever seen. I really can't think of anything, at least in recent memory, that is as good. Maybe there's an old NWA match with like Magnum TA in, which rivals it. But as far as fantastic storytelling, that cage match was unbelievable, and it had great spots, a great finish, and a really good crowning of new tag champions, which I think always bumps a match up. So this match wasn't quite as high profile, but it was still very, very good. FTR are completely different, obviously, to the Lucha Bros, and that made for a very compelling matchup. This is by far the best matchup these two teams have had. There was some unbelievable near falls, but towards the end, perhaps too many, I would say. Tully Blanchard got involved a little bit, which allowed FTR to take advantage every now and then. There was a belt shot from Dax Harwood, and then Cash Wheeler hit a brainbuster for a great near fall. Penta and Phoenix hit the assisted package pile driver, and then Ray Phoenix springboarded off of the man in the package pile driver and did a crossbody onto the other FTR, I think it was Cash Wheeler. That was a near fall. There was also a Free Amigos by Penta, and which of course paying tribute to late great Eddie Guerrero, who of course passed away 16 years ago yesterday. Rest in peace, Viva La Razza. One of my favourite wrestlers of all time. I miss watching him work every day. So yeah, there's a great tribute there, and a frog splash, which was a near fall. And FTR just had almost no response towards the end of the matchup for the Lucha Bros' offense. So they tried to cheat. Dax Harwood put on one of the masks, the luchador masks they used when they won the AAA tag titles. He got in the ring, he got super kicked, and then he got hit with a Fear Factor, which is the assisted package pile driver again, and then pinned. And I thought the finish was a bit flat. It didn't kind of click with, I don't think it clicked with the crowd. I don't think it quite clicked with the audience, and I don't think it quite clicked with the commentators. So, you know, it was a great match. Well, very, very, very good matchup. I don't quite want to give it 4 stars. I think I'm going to give it 3 3/4. Excellent near falls. Kind of too many, but they were excellent near falls. And then the finish was a bit flat, but very, very good matchup. Not nowhere on the level of the cage match from the last pay-per-view, but very, very, very good tag match. As I said, 3 3/4 stars to those guys. Third match on the show, and we keep rolling with the greatness. We've got the World Title Eliminator Tournament Finals between Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, who has been unreal in his 2 months in AEW. He's had great matches with Minoru Suzuki, Rocky Romero, Bobby Fish, Kenny Omega. Oh, God, who else? Dustin Rhodes, even in this tournament. Eddie Kingston, like... I feel like nobody's had as good a 2 months in any company in the world as this guy has. Maybe Kenny Omega in the G1 at some point, or Okada in the G1, or Ibushi, or someone in the G1. I need that. Maybe someone in the G1 has had as good a 6 months as Danielson has here in AEW, but my God, Danielson's been unbelievable. He's been, and it's been like every week as well. But Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, takes on Miro, who of course is a replacement for Jon Moxley, who of course has gone into rehab again. Best wishes to Jon Moxley, Renee Paquette, and their daughter. So best wishes to their family. Hopefully Jon Moxley returns and, you know, is back to his best. So Miro and Bryan Danielson, this was by far the most unique Danielson match we've seen in AEW, because it was the one where he was fighting from underneath. In no other match as it felt like he was, you know, being beaten by Miro. And there's a great point at the beginning of the match where he's tried a few things to take Miro down, and he's just in the corner kind of analysing Miro and trying to think what my next, you know, what my next strategy on, what my next offensive maneuver is going to be. But it was really, a lot of the beginning bit was just Miro dominating Bryan, bull suplexes on the outside, Germans, head kicks, stuff like that. Really grinding down Bryan Danielson. It wasn't quite as brutal as the Eddie Kingston matchup, but perhaps because it was a bit more vicious and mean in the way that Miro is as a heel, it was perhaps more so. Brutal stuff from both guys. Danielson eventually got an Enuma Plata. He got a triangle choke at one point. He got in the label lock at one point, which Miro just clubbed Danielson out of, and that's when he put him in the triangle choke. They did a few things up top, massive suplex. Towards the end, Miro essentially, I think, you know, both men went up to the top rope, and Danielson hit Miro with a top rope DDT, which just absolutely killed Miro. Again, it was all about Miro's neck. Oh, there was a great spot, probably about halfway through the matchup, where Miro was just allowing Bryan Danielson to give him some mid-drift kicks and just not selling them. And then he just gave one to Danielson and it would down him. It was fantastic stuff. This is one of Miro's best matches, probably of his career, just to say. But at the finish, as I said, Danielson hit the big top rope DDT, like a proper DDT up the top rope, killed Miro, and then just put him in a guillotine. And immediately Audrey Edwards was like, yeah, he's done, he's out. Like, so essentially the DDT knocked him out, and Danielson just put him in a guillotine to, like, essentially take the submission victory. Danielson's ability to win matches with any move is one of the most fascinating assets of his character and his wrestling at the minute. It's outstanding. This match was really, really, really good. Not quite as good as the opener, the 4.5 stars of the opener, but better than the tag match we watched just before this. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Great matchup. One of Miro's best matches. And Danielson, again, has a fantastic matchup with someone in AEW. He is on such a hot streak. And with him winning the World Title Eliminator Tournament, he would be facing either Omega or Page. And, you know, regardless of who that was going to be, it would be a fantastic matchup. So Danielson is only going to have more great matches. Yeah, this was a great matchup. Not quite as good as the Eliminator Tournament final last year between Page and Omega, but great match nonetheless. Fourth match on the show, and we just keep... This is the thing with the show. Every match felt different. Like, we had the opening matchup, which was like a really great mat-based wrestling matchup with Darby Allin and MJF. And then we had the tag match, which was really balls to the walls and great tag spots. Then we had the third match, which was Miro and Danielson, who... Big Goliath versus David. And in the end, David won, and it was fantastic. And then we had the fourth match, which was the Falls Count Anywhere matchup between Jurassic Express and Christian Cage as they took on the Superkliq, which is Adam Cole, Bebe, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. This, again, was just balls to the walls anarchy. Fantastic hardcore matchup here. At the beginning, there was just chaos everywhere. Adam Cole got busted open quite early after a pump kick and like a faceplant onto a steel chair. Jungle Boy was outstanding here. He did an arm drag on both the Bucks and then sat in the chair and like crossed his legs and then got last shotted the Shining Wizard by Adam Cole. There was a great spot with a trash can where Jungle Boy went for a tope and he got hit with a trash can, and then Christian drop kicked that trash can into one of the Bucks. And then the other Buck drop kicked that trash can into Christian, and then he got pump kicked by Luchasaurus into the other Buck. It was just great stuff everywhere. Christian took Nick Jackson, I believe, or Matt Jackson, sorry, into the crowd. He did a dive off one of the balconies onto him and Michael Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler, the Stooges, basically. Then they kind of went up the ramp. And they were destroying Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. They were kicking out of everything, to be fair. There was a Panama Sunrise from Adam Cole and Jungle Boy on the ramp. You know, God, just so much. And then they killed Luchasaurus with super kicks. Christian Cage came back in the picture. They just killed him with a trio super kick. Then they pulled out a bag, and inside the bag was three knee pads of thumbtacks. So thumbtack knee pads. There you go, got it in the end. And they all put them on. They gave a triple BTE trigger to Luchasaurus. It was broken up by Jungle Boy. So they survived somehow. And then Christian Cage comes in with a spear to one of the Jacksons. Adam Cole, Nick Jackson was thrown off the stage. Adam Cole is then chokeslammed off the stage by Luchasaurus onto Nick Jackson, Michael Nakazawa, and Brandon Cutler. He then does a shooting star press off the stage and they all catch him. That was outstanding. I don't think we've ever seen Luchasaurus do a shooting star. I've seen him do like a moonsault, but I've never shooting star press. That was absolutely insane. So Matt Jackson's dead after the spear. A great spot earlier in the matchup, which the ending called back to, was Christian was going for the concerto. He was going to hit the concerto on one of the Jacksons, and he looked at Jungle Boy and said, "No, you do it." And Jungle Boy was apprehensive, and that's why he wasn't able to do it. So at the end, Christian Cage was like, "No, I'm going to do the concerto on Matt Jackson." Jungle Boy said, "No, I'll do it." Got the concerto. Whacked Matt Jackson. They pinned him 1, 2, 3, and the Jurassic Express and Christian Cage win this absolute balls out fun Falls Count Anywhere. It was 20 minutes of just balls out fun all over the arena. I'm going to give it 4 1/4 stars. It was one of the better Falls Count Anywhere matches I've seen this year, really. And I didn't even talk about the best moment, which was just after Luchasaurus did the shooting star press off the ramp to, Nakazawa, Cutler, Jackson, and Nick Jackson, and Adam Cole. They zoom in on Jungle Boy's face, who just goes like, "Holy shit!" Like, yeah, this match was basically holy shit after holy shit. The crowd chanted "Holy shit!" It was absolutely wonderful. 4 1/4 stars. Great stuff. Jungle Boy, big win on pay-per-view for him. And I think Jungle Boy, was one of the 4 pillars, as we've had it, pronounced to us by MJF and AEW management and stuff like that. I think Jungle Boy has such a bright future. Luchasaurus, I'm such a big fan of. I just don't see where he'll end up eventually. I think if they ever do split up as a tag team, I think Luchasaurus will maybe stay around the mid-card, But, you know, they're both great. Christian Cage was great here. Matt, Nick, and Adam Cole were all fantastic. This was a great Falls Count Anywhere matchup, as I said, 4.25 stars. The fifth match on the show was the women's title match. Now, I'm very grateful that they didn't put this match on next to last, because I think if it was, the crowd would have been deader than they were in this matchup. They were quite quiet for this matchup, but they certainly weren't dead. Of course, it was the champion, the AEW Women's World Champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, against Ty Conti, who has had a unprecedented rise in AEW since her debut. It's amazing how far she's come since getting there. Her ability in the ring is so much better. I remember watching the Nyla Rose match she had. I don't even know if it's a year ago. It's probably less than that. But just seeing that match and seeing how far on she's come, and her match with Anna Jay, her tag match with Anna Jay at the Brody Lee Tribute Show last year in December. Stuff like that show me how far she's come. And this was probably her best singles match to date, because it was given time, 15 minutes, which is fair for the women, and it was great. They perhaps again had the issue of kicking out of too much towards the end of the matchup. They kicked out of everything. Ty Conti hit Britt Baker with the TKO, the Ty KO. She hit her with a Gotch pile driver. She hit her with the DDT. Britt Baker hit her with a curb stomp on the steps. She hit her with a curb stomp in the ring. She locked in the lockjaw, which Ty Conti escaped. There was perhaps too much kicking out of stuff towards the end up. It made them both look really strong, but perhaps too much here. It's, again, pay-per-view, so you can kind of get away with it, but to me, the finish probably should have come when Britt did the curb stomp on the steps, which followed, by the way, a fantastic moonsault by Ty Conti off the top, where she fully extended her body, so she was like tall, basically. It was an awesome moonsault, which only hit Jamie Hayter and Rebel at ringside. Britt Baker also did an air raid crash on the apron to Ty Conti, which killed her. But in the end, after all those crazy spots, the curb stomps, the lockjaw, which Ty Conti escaped the lockjaw and got to the ropes. Well, she rolled backwards and got to the ropes, which is quite a clever way to get out of it. In the end, they traded roll-ups and backslides and cradles and stuff like that. And in the end, Britt Baker hooked Ty Conti's legs, stacked her quite high, 1, 2, 3, Britt Baker retains. Quite an odd finish, you know. In the end, it was the best wrestler who won the matchup, but the matchup that preceded it, gave me the impression that it was just going to be a really definitive finish, like a finisher to finish, even though we had exhausted every finisher that these two women have. So the finish, slightly flat, but again, very good matchup. Not quite as good as anything we'd seen so far, so I'm going to give it 3.5 stars, but very good matchup. I think Britt Baker's been a great world champion. Ty Conti was a great challenger. I preferred the women's world title matchup at the last pay-per-view, the one with Chris Statlander. I really like Chris Statlander. As far as who was going to beat Britt Baker for the title, Anna Jay, maybe. I mean, Thunder Rosa is the obvious choice. They had the Lights Out matchup, which is outstanding, and that could be the way to go. But Anna Jay would be my slight dark horse, given that she's a member of the Dark Order, and although she did lose to Jamie Hayter in the TBS tournament, so maybe not. Obviously, they had the chance for Ruby Soho, but so, you know, maybe it is Thunder Rosa. Maybe that's the only way they can go, really. But no, 3.5 stars. It was a very good matchup still. I can't remember what happened after that. There's so much. Let's just get it up. We had, after the... Oh, I've totally missed a match. That's bad. I've totally missed a match. Sorry, before the women's match, before the women's world title matchup with Dr. Britt Baker and Ty Conti, it was the tag matchup with Pac and Cody Rhodes, the booed Cody Rhodes, against Malachi Black and Andrade. 4 former WWE guys who perhaps were not used effectively enough. And they're all here, and this was maybe the weakest match on the show because I didn't get into it as much as most of the other matches. Now, the 4 guys in this match were all great. I specifically love Malachi Black and Pac. but it never quite got to that great tier for me. And a lot of it blended together. I mean, they're all great wrestlers. The story for both teams was Pac and Cody couldn't get on. Andrade and Black got on at the beginning. Towards the end of the matchup, they didn't get on. And Pac at the end hit a plancher and he hit Cody after Malachi Black pulled him in the way. So he was like, oh no. And you thought that Andrade was going to win. He hit the Hamlet DDT and that didn't win. Cody was hit with Black Mass earlier in the match because he was just being a twat. Like, he was just arguing with Pac, and Malachi Black was just like, nope, Black Mass. Hit him with the spinning heel kick, which was great. You know, they love Malachi Black. The fans love Malachi Black, and they're not massive fans of Cody. So they're only not massive fans of Cody because it's like that Hollywoodized kind of wrestler now who's in the TV shows and the talent shows and stuff like that. He's still great. He is still great. He's my least favourite of these four guys, but he is still great. But towards the finish, Cody, Arn Anderson took out Andrade's manager. Can't remember what his name is. After doing the gun gesture, I'd maybe drop it. I can see why he wouldn't, but I'd maybe drop it. And then Andrade and Pac were in the ring, and Pac gave him a exploder into the corner. He gave him a poisoned Rana, hit him with the black arrow, and pinned him. And it was very clean. It was like the cleanest finish of probably any match on the show almost. But, yeah, very odd. Not a flat finish per se, but not quite a spectacular finish. I'm going to give this one 3.25 stars. I thought this was pretty good. Probably the weakest match on the show, but still pretty good. And again, these guys are all great. And, you know, this match was there as a tag only to get these four guys on the show. If there was 2 more singles matches on the show would have gone an extra 20 minutes. And, you know, while that would have been great, Andrade and Pac probably would have been a great match because they've had great matches. And Malachi Black and Cody probably would have been a great match because they've had great matches. I maybe like the way they did it as a tag more because it at least gave a better chance to Darby and MJF, and a better chance to the main event, and a better chance to Jurassic Express. You know, the thing about the show I'll give them tremendous credit for is that every match got time. Every match was... The shortest match on the show was 11 minutes. And I'll talk about that in a little while. So yeah, 3.25 stars to Cody and Cody Pac against Malachi Black and Andrade, which was before the Women's World Title match, which I've already reviewed, so I do apologise for getting those in the wrong order. The 7th match on the main show, and it was the fight. Oh my god, this was a fight. CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. This match only went 11 minutes. I mean, the whole segment was probably like 14 or 15, with entrances, with the pre-match attack by Eddie Kingston, who, as they were just squaring off before the bell, Eddie Kingston just gave him the Hurricane, which is the spinning back fist, and just killed CM Punk. He made CM Punk bleed in this matchup. He threw him into the ring post and made him bleed. I could not do this match justice when I call it a fight. This was 2 men who for 11 minutes looked like they absolutely fucking hated each other. And for 11 minutes, they just hit each other. There's very few wrestling moves in this matchup. It's almost like a Shibata Rishi matchup in that way. But brutal, and the story was great in the way that these 2 men just demonstrated their pure venom and hatred for each other. And it wasn't even just... they almost both became tweeners. Kingston was slightly heelish, I guess, by attacking before the bell. But the crowd loved Eddie Kingston. I mean, CM Punk at points actually got booed. So I'm not going to go through every spot in this matchup because it's just not worth it. Like, basically, they just punched and hit each other and kicked each other and slapped each other and said fuck you to each other and swore at each other. At one point, though, Punk did kind of parody John Cena. He did some really shitty shoulder tackles, and then he was going to do the 5-knuckle shuffle. He put his hand up and he went fuck you to Eddie Kingston, and it was so good. So good. And Eddie Kingston swore at him too, and then Punk gave him a GTS, and Punk just fell down, like he just couldn't cover him, and Eddie Kingston was lying in the ropes. And then he picked him up and he gave him another GTS, and he fell into the cover. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk wins the fight at Full Gear. This was ungodly unreal. This is one of the best 11-minute matches I've ever seen. Like, just a fight for 11 minutes. 4.5 stars. Unbelievable for 11 minutes. After the matchup, Punk was going to shake Kingston's hand. Kingston just walked away, which is brilliant. That's exactly what he would do. Kingston does not respect CM Punk, so shaking his hand would really take that away, I think. Punk looked absolutely gone after this matchup, like just bleeding and just shattered and just like, what have I just been through? But yeah, this was outstanding. Best match Punk's had in AEW. Just great. Just absolutely great. Awesome. 4.5 stars. One of the best matches on the show. And after that, we had the penultimate match on the show, which was the Inner Circle versus American Top Team and the Men of the Year in the Minneapolis Street Fight. Now, I'm going to get all the names. I'm going to do it in one take. Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, the TNT Champion, Santana and Ortiz against Dan Lambert, American Top Team, which was Junior Dos Santos and Andre Arlovsky, 2 former UFC Heavyweight Champions, and Men of the Year, which is Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, All Ego Ethan Page. This was your, I would say, cool down before the main event. This was the matchup probably people were least excited for. I would say me too. The only thing I was really fascinated to see was how Junior Dos Santos and Andre Arlovsky would do. I'll talk about them in a minute. This was just a crazy street fight, though. Nowhere near as good as the Falls Count Anywhere earlier in the show. But crazy street fight. Crazy street fight. Just tables breaking everywhere. And Junior Dos Santos was very good, I thought. Power Slam was great. He did a moonsault, a standing moonsault, which was pretty good. He needed to tuck his head, I think, a little bit more. But it was pretty good. You know, there was just crazy stuff everywhere. Jake Hager fighting Andre Arlovsky. Andre Arlovsky was less good than Junior Dos Santos. He wasn't terrible, but he was less good. He's not a wrestler by trade, though, is he? Neither was Junior Dos Santos. Neither was Brock Lesnar, and he's great. But no, he's fine. He was fine. He wasn't as good as Junior Dos Santos, though. Dan Lambert was essentially there to be a manager, so it was essentially 5-4, which... dynamics not great in a babyface versus heel matchup, but you know, in the end he got his comeuppance. You know, it was a match, and it was my least favourite thing on the show, but it was still some good stuff in it. Sammy Guevara was great as usual. Santana and Ortiz did some great stuff, dives into the crowd and stuff like that. And eventually, Baron Von Raschke, who was at ringside, put the Iron Claw on All Ego Ethan Page. Which was good. Which was very nice. It was a nice payoff to him being at ringside. So this was kind of your standard... I can't even think of the way to put it. This was kind of your standard, you know, celebrities or people who aren't usually wrestlers coming in and having a matchup. There was smoke and mirrors everywhere, and it made it far more bearable than it would have been otherwise. I do think Junior Dos Santos was very good. Andre Arlovsky was alright. Dan Lambert didn't do anything. Obviously, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page were great. Scorpio Sky was part of the biggest spot in the matchup where he was on the table, and Sammy Guevara did a swanton through the table from a massive ladder. It was pretty insane, and that basically killed Scorpio Sky. Ethan Page was killed in the crowd. Dos Santos and Arlovsky were taken out by Hager, I believe. And then in the end, Dan Lambert was in the ring on his own, and he got hit with a Judas effect by Jericho and pinned. Oh no, he didn't get hit with a Judas effect. No, as a homage to Eddie Guerrero, he hit the Three Amigos. Again, another Three Amigos tribute on this show. We had a few of them. And then hit the Three Amigos. Oh, CM Punk also did an Eddie Guerrero tribute because he was one of his mentors growing up. One of his idols as well, one of his favourite wrestlers. So Jericho hit the Three Amigos and a frog splash and pinned Dan Lambert and pointed at the sky and said, "I love you, Eddie." Very nice moment. The matchup was good. I'm going to give it 3 stars. Probably the weakest thing on the show. I totally forgot that this was there almost, and it was my least anticipated thing. But I think that Jericho and Guevara and Santana, Ortiz and Hager did very well with, you know, the limitations they were given. I thought Junior Dos Santos was alright. Arlovsky was kind of there. Dan Lambert didn't do anything. And Sky and Page are great. So perhaps Perhaps I'm being a bit harsh. 3 stars though. I thought this was good. Would I watch it again? Probably not. It was probably the weakest match on the show, but you know, it was good. And then we had finally. What time are we on? God, this has been a long review, but it's been such a good review. It's been great to talk about this show. Finally, the main event. 2 years in the making. Ever since AEW's foundation, Hangman Page has said that he wanted to win the World Championship. He won the Casino Battle Royal back at Double or Nothing to go to All Out and to face Chris Jericho for the world title, and he lost. And he lost the Eliminator Tournament last year in the final to Omega. And he lost before All Out this year, and we thought All Out was when he was going to be crowned champion, and it wasn't. And here, finally, Hangman Adam Page gets his world title matchup against Kenny Omega. The 2-year story came to a head, and it was absolutely fucking unreal. This was an outstanding wrestling matchup that started like almost a Wrestle Kingdom main event. It was almost a Wrestle Kingdom main event in the way that it was slow build. It was 2 men feeling each other out, almost like Tanahashi Okada. And this very much reminded me of Okada and Omega back for Dominion in 2018. 18, yeah. The 2 out of 3 falls 7-star match, that outstanding match. This reminded me of that in a way that it was Page's moment, and Omega was oddly the one who was there to give him it. This match was outstanding, and it needs to be watched and watched by everybody. The facial expressions of everyone in this match were fantastic. The body language of everyone in this match was fantastic. Don Callis played his part at ringside, stomping on Adam Page, and Kenny Omega hit some dragon suplexes. He did a big one on the apron. Hangman H hit a power bomb, and they did a reverse suplex off the top, I believe. It was just mental. V-triggers, Omega with some stiff knees to Page. Page said, "Fuck you," to Omega. He got his head right in his face and against his head, and there was a dive to the outside. He did obviously Omega did the Terminator dive, but then Page did a moonsault to the outside. He also did a jump off the post to Omega, almost through a table. It more pushed the table back. Then both men got in the ring, and Page went for the buckshot lariat, and he hit Omega hit a V-trigger on him. That was absolutely outstanding. And they both traded, like, Page went for a forearm, Omega hit a V-trigger, forearm V-trigger, spinning forearm V-trigger. That sort of battle they were having with the knee against the elbow and forearm strikes. And then towards the end, Page went for the buckshot and he took out the referee. And Don Callis threw the belt in the ring, and Page picked it up, and he didn't want to use it. And Omega took advantage and hit a V-trigger. He went for the one-winged angel, and at this point, Nick and Matt Jackson had come down to ringside. He went for the one-winged angel, and Page Page hit a dead eye. Wait, while the referee was down, Page hit a dead eye on Omega, who went for a belt shot. That was it. He went for a belt shot. Page ducked it, hit a dead eye, and Aubrey Edwards sprinted down to the ring for one of the best near falls you'll ever see. Page got up. Omega went for the one-winged angel. Page slipped out the back and hit a one-winged angel of his own. That was kicked out of by Kenny Omega. So someone did kick out of the one-winged angel in this matchup. And it was Kenny Omega kicking out of his own move. And after that, Page went for the buckshot lariat. And Nick Jackson was at one side of the ring, and he looked at him, and Nick looked like he was going to do something, and he didn't. And Page did the buckshot lariat to the back of Kenny Omega. And then he went out to the other side of the ring, and he looked at Matt Jackson, and Matt looked like he was going to do something. And then Matt just nodded at Page. Page hit a second buckshot lariat to the front of Kenny Omega. He pinned Kenny Omega 1, 2, 3. Hangman Adam Page is the new AEW World Champion. This was beautiful. This was poetic. This was culmination of a 2-year odyssey story. Of Hangman Page, and it was outstanding. This was one of the best matches I've seen this year. Again, if you factor in the finish and the emotion, I I was emotional for this. I love the fact as well that on Hangman Page's graphic coming out to the ring, the graphics team put, "You deserve this." And it was awesome. This was absolutely awesome. Page won the belt. Beats Omega. Omega finally finds a challenger who can take him down, and it's the man, his old tag team partner, Hangman Adam Page. Poetic. The plan for 2 years has been Hangman Page, and it paid off dramatically well at AEW Full Gear. Page is celebrating in the ring, and down comes the Dark Order to join him. Alex Reynolds offers him a beer. He pushes the beer aside and hugs the Dark Order. He embraces the Dark Order. They hug him. They put him on their shoulders. Show cuts to black. AEW Full Gear ends on the highest of highs. One of the highest of highs I've ever seen in wrestling. One of the biggest title wins, probably in the biggest match in AEW history. One of the biggest title changes, easily the biggest title change in AEW history. The one they've been planning for so long. They said that they planned their first 4 world champions. You know, Jericho, Moxley, Omega, Page. Perhaps it wasn't supposed to be this quick, but my God, was it 2 years worth waiting for. God, what a way to end the show. 5 stars to the main event. The main event was outstanding. It told a fantastic story. It had great near falls. And in the end, we got the finish we wanted. And I think sometimes in wrestling, emotion takes over. Perhaps the match wasn't 5 stars, but my God, it felt like 5 stars. 5 stars. Absolutely outstanding. Best match on the show. Lived up to every single expectation I needed to. And my God, the right man won. And so infrequently in wrestling does the right man win. And the crowd loved cowboy shit. They loved Hangman Page. Kenny Omega was booed out of the building. Hangman Page's entrance as well, by the way, was him walking down the street towards Target Center on his horse, and it was showing flashbacks of him losing it all out and losing the tag titles and breaking up with the Bucks and breaking up with Omega, and it culminated with that moment where Matt Jackson gave him the nod to, like, finally, I'm in your corner. We are in your corner, watching you win the world title. We believe in you, and he won the world title, and it was beautiful. I could talk about this match forever. This will be one of my favourite matches I've ever seen, I'm pretty sure. When Full Gear comes out on DVD, I will buy it. I will buy it on Blu-ray if it comes out on Blu-ray, because this was goddamn unbelievable, and I will not have a bad word said about this main event. 5 stars. The only... and that ended Full Gear, and the only thing I want to say about Full Gear as a criticism, on top of what I've said about matches having too many finishes, or you know, having flat finishes, is there wasn't a lot of room to breathe between each match. It was essentially, because they knew every match was 11 minutes or more, so Punk's match was the shortest matchup, and it was so good for 11 minutes. Every match was 11 minutes or more, which meant that essentially it was match, all the way to the end. There was highlight packages after some matches, but then not some after others. There was very brief moments of interlude between matches. And in future, this did feel like a Wrestle Kingdom in that way, but Wrestle Kingdom gives you slightly more time to breathe. Like after a big IWGP Intercontinental title matchup, there is that moment of retention and the loser walking away or being guiding down the loser's ramp. There wasn't that here, and I think in future for AEW shows, if they do a card like this, which is stacked with singles matches that they want to go 15, 20 minutes, then they perhaps need a little bit more time in the middle. The show was only 3 hours and 55 minutes, which it didn't feel that long, honestly. I mean, it finished just before 5 o'clock. So, you know, I mean, it was fantastic for 3 hours and 55 minutes. I have no complaints about that. I just thought there should have been a bit more of an interlude between every match. And that's my biggest criticism of the show. And when I look at the show and I go 4.5 stars, 3 3/4 stars, 4 stars, 4.25 stars, 3.25 stars, 3.5 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars, I'm like, this show built so wonderfully. Like, it started off hot, and then it had a great tag match, and it had a great wrestling match, and it had the middle matches, which was a bit slower, and it had a women's world title match, and then it built with a massive fight between Punk and Kingston, then it slowed you down a bit with a really wacky street fight, and then it had the culmination of Hangman Page's journey to the AEW World Championship, which was absolutely fantastic. This was a 10 out of 10 show, Easily. Best match of the year. One of them best matches of the year with Hangman Page and Omega. The only matches that I can think of that I would say are better or are in the same category. I mean, I don't do 6-star ratings or 7-star ratings, any of that. I just do 5. But the only 5-star matches that come to my mind straight away are the tag match with the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks at All Out. The Walter Dragunov matchup, which again, all those matches have the similar notion of big title changes, emotional, babyface wins. And I do think babyface wins do amplify matches quite a lot. Gargano versus Cole, Daniel Bryan winning the world title at Mania 30. So, yeah, I do think there is a massive emotional investment you have in these matches when a babyface wins, and you do perhaps over-exaggerate. But watching the matchup, I don't feel like I did. 5 stars, fucking awesome main event, 10 out of 10 show. Full Gear was every single thing I wanted it to be. Every single penny of my $19.99 I spent on it felt worth it. I'm doing this review right now, feels so awesome. I loved AEW Full Gear. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen live. We capped off with one of the best main events I've ever seen live. And that is what AEW Full Gear's 2021's legacy will be. Brilliant, fantastic, climactic, and emotional. And that was Full Gear. Thank you so much for watching this review. Give me your thoughts, what you thought of Full Gear. What did you think to the crowning of Hangman Page as our AEW World Champion? What was your favourite matchup on the show? What did you think to the bloody fight between Punk and Kingston? What did you think of the tag match with Cody, Pac, Black and Andrade? The Jurassic Express battle against the Superkliq? Jungle Boy getting a big victory? And what did you think to the great opener between Darby Allin and MJF? Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Revolver Rosselot.